Okay, so we're going to go through the whole process of putting in the bed install kit, and it consists of 4 vertical wall bracer or vertical wall tracks and 2 of the wall bracers. I put a tool on each one of you don't need 2 drills. You can use hand operated rib nut and rivet setters if you need. But I laid everything out. This is everything you'll need. So a tape measure and a pen, a Phillips bit, a 3/16 drill bit, a 3/16 rivet setter, and the rib nut setter. And again, these can be hand or pneumatic. This is the box that you're going to get your install kit. This is for the MOAB Bed install kit, and it's also included with the entire track system if you're getting the entire track kit. So on the outside you'll see a packing slip, and you want to go through and make sure what is inside the van or inside the box matches the packing slip. You'll get rivet nuts, stainless steel bolts, set screws, and rivets, and they'll be in 4 separated bags like this. Then you'll have 1 of the tracks, vertical tracks, that has an edge milled off of it. So 1 flange is on, 1 flange is off. This is for the passenger side. You'll have 1 vertical track that has the flanges on both sides. That's for the driver's side forward. And then you'll get into 2 of the wall bracers. And one thing actually that I did not set out here, and we can actually bring into the video in a little bit, is I use a rubber mallet, and it's actually necessary because the contour of the back of the van, depending on what side you use the wall bracer, you'll actually just dog ear this edge down a very, very little bit so the contour of the van can move around. It's really less than a 1/16. So we'll have the hammer float in. So I just use this kind of hammer. And again, if it's on the passenger side, you'll bounce just a couple of taps on the aft side of the wall bracer, and on the driver's side, same thing on the aft side. So if you want, you guys can just come in here and we'll just go through the whole process. Gabe from Drifter Wagons over here is going to help set it up. And we got Nathan also from Mammoth Vans. These are affiliate install, part of our install network. And we're up here at the Northwest Overland Expo, putting together this van in a field. All right, so from the center line here, we're going to put the tape, and this is what I call the 0 or center line of the vehicle. It's right after the front bay for the front window or the sliding door. There's a crease that goes all the way around the van. And so whenever you hear me refer to center line, that's what I'm referring to.
And it's the same on the 170 and the 144.
Yeah, everything on before this center line on the 170 and 144 is the same. So Gabe is going to mark 52 3/4 inches. That's the magic number, 52 3/4 inches from the center line, and he's going to make that mark below and above this window box. And then we'll do the same on the passenger side, which, even from your angle there, you can pretty much guess what we're doing here. We're just making a mark at 52 3/4 above and below that window box. Okay? Now, we'll choose one of these to put on the driver's side and one to put on the passenger side. Again, I take this and I dog ear this edge back. So knowing I'm going to put this on the driver's side, I'm going to send this ear down a little bit. Literally, it's just that much. It's a tap. And that could even be too much if you smack it too hard. And that's because this shape of this steel right here is starting to bend. The critical point with this install here is you want the back of this track flat against the skin of the vehicle. And you want the back of this track flat against the skin of the vehicle on the top. The key thing to think about when you're installing this is that the back of the track, this part of the track, the back of it is flush, flat, right up against the skin of the vehicle on the top and the bottom. And that you're centered right over that line that you made, right? So the center of your track is on the center of that line, and we're gonna shoot this side in first, and we're making sure that, again, that this is flat against the back. Now, it looks to me like I'm flat on the bottom, and I'm using one of the self-tapping screws that are in that box. And how are you on the top? You're flat there. I'm gonna come up just a little bit. So I'm gonna put one in, and then we'll look at the top and see if we can be flat there. We're flat here, good. So, this is now right where we like it.
Yep.
And I'll put two in and twist this guy back up. I'll put two in the bottom and one in the top. That leaves it open for me to tap these holes and set the 3/16 rivets. So here's the drill. To punch the holes, I punch this one already over here, and I punch two of the holes and then set two of the rivets before I remove the set screws. So there's one of the rivets.
Okay.
The rivets are put in. So after you put half of the rivets in, you can remove your original set screws, because the bracer's not going to go anywhere now, and go ahead and punch the holes wider. Now you'll notice there's 4 holes here on the bottom on either side. You only need 2 rivets in each side. The reason why there's the other set is because on a 170 with a forward wall bracer, it covers a hole here, and you have to adjust to different holes. So just know that you're just putting 2 in on either side, and it doesn't matter if you use the 2 that are closer, the 2 that are farthest out. I like to use the 2 that are farthest out. So you don't need to put a rivet into each one of those. If you have extra rivets and you feel comfortable, go ahead. Now these are stainless steel rivets, so if you're using a hand riveter, they're going to be a little bit more difficult than your aluminum rivets. But we don't like using aluminum against this steel. So, with that, you've installed your rear vertical wall bracer, and as long as the back of this track is flush against the skin of the vehicle, and the back of this bottom is flush against the skin of the vehicle, when you put your horizontal track across, it will match up nicely and won't be too proud of it.
Like it there?
All right. So the vertical wall bracers are in. Before you set the front wall bracers, you're going to want to know what this distance is right here. So before we put the front vertical tracks in, we want to know the distance from the bottom here to this little crease. This crease runs the whole length of the van on the passenger and driver's side. So I'm going to burn about 3 inches. So I'm going to put the 3 exactly on the bottom of this track, and I'm looking at 5/8, 4 5/8 to the top of this transition right here. So I just want to make sure that I do the same thing over here, and if I put that transition at 4 5/8, then I should be able to mark the 3, and that'll be where I set the bottom of my vertical wall bracer in the front. So when I put this up, I'll just make sure to set that bottom right down on that line I just made. I'll make sure that the bottom doesn't move. We push it in, and we'll put a set screw right here. You get a set screw for me. And yeah, make sure the bottom's still up, which it is. There it is. And again, we want to leave 2 of them open and screw 2 of them in. For the front verticals, I put 1 in the middle and 1 on the top, or 1 on the bottom and 1 in the middle. But either way, 1 of the middle ones and 1 of the end ones need to be screwed in. So I'll go ahead and put 1 right here. Okay. Now, if you're doing the whole track system, go ahead and put your horizontal track in before you put this vertical track system in. If you're just doing the MOAB bed install, go off the measurement just like we did. It's totally fine. But if you're doing the track, you can actually at this point, before you put this vertical one in, you can feel where it is underneath the rear wall bracer and just line it up all the way through.
Reveal. Yeah. By feel to your finger. You don't have to get out your tape or your eyeball.
Yeah, just you don't have to get out your tape. You can just feel right under here that it feels the same all the way down. And go ahead and screw this one in. We actually keep those in. Since this is getting an entire kit, we're going to go ahead and set these in here right now too. And here's another thing. I'm used to setting these set screws. After you've set a couple thousand of them, you get used to them. If you need, put it where you want. Put a dimple with a little awl in there, and it'll center your screw. I usually skip 2, set 1, skip 2, set 1, and that allows me to put more riv nuts in, because we're going to put punch holes in here, drop this, and then set riv nuts in, put it back up, and then we'll drill out our set screw holes and do the same thing again. So we'll go ahead and do that to the driver's side so we can set our vertical, and then we'll punch these out for the riv nuts. On the driver's side, we're going to show you how to install it if you're going to buy the whole entire track kit and you're doing more than just the MOAB install. What I advise is putting in the vertical wall bracer in the back, and then the lower horizontal, and then we'll set our forward vertical wall track on top of that. So it does not have to butt in all the way to the front because that gets covered by the B pillar. So what I do is I go off the back and I put it about 1/4 inch off of the back D pillar here. And again, I come in and I set the screw that's closest to the vertical wall bracer. And after I set this, and I'm butting up against the bottom of the wall bracer, just nice and tight up against the bottom, I can feel with my finger what that reveal is. And I'm going to go all the way down to the front, and I'm going to put the front at the same height. Okay, because then my finger knows exactly where it needs to be, whereas Gabe's finger doesn't know. So, let me just feel where it was. It's great. And now I can feel as I go down. Do not assume that this is going to be totally straight. This is aluminum. You can see how much flex there is in there. So you are going to want to consistently feel exactly where it was and make sure it doesn't run off from where it is on the back. And again, I'm skipping 2 holes and then placing 1. In the center area, where these 2 seams come together, each van is a little different. You may have a little bit of it drop inward. There may be a gap. Don't worry about it. It'll all plane out in the end. So then I'm going to skip 2 more holes, place my last one right here in the middle. Okay, now double check. All feels really groovy. We're going to put the front vertical wall bracer or vertical wall track in. To put the front vertical wall track in now, we're just setting it right on top of our horizontal track that we placed. This 0 line is going to be put against the front back edge. Okay, so we're just going to follow that front edge right on this crease. And if we do that, it will match what we did on the passenger side. And again, same thing, I'm going to push in the center, and I'm going to set a bottom one and a middle one, or an edge one and a middle one. Oops. Are we where we like it? That guy.
Is this it? Yeah.
There we go. So once we get these in, we can continue to set the top one across the top of these and at least place them. Right now we're going to go ahead and set the riv nuts for the front vertical wall bracers so that we can show you what it would be like if you're just going to be installing the MOAB. But if you're installing all the track, what I like to do is either take this measurement here and move that to the front, measuring right up off the top of this horizontal track, and you'll get your mark up across the top, and you'll set your top horizontal track if you're going to be installing all of the track. And that's what I like to do, and then go through and punch out all the holes for the riv nuts. But for this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and set the riv nuts for these front vertical wall tracks right now. Okay, so there's multiple ways that you can punch these holes. Some people use a hinge bit that centers it closer. I haven't had a lot of luck getting that right on where I like it. I actually use the step drill, step bit, because I can guide the step bit up or down or one way to the other to match the circle that's already in the track. So I'll start this bit and then push it and basically widen it out to the size, you can see up here, of the hole. That is in the track. So once these are drilled out, we'll do one on this passenger side. We'll actually pull this off and use the 25/64 bit to widen it out. These first holes, we'll take the track down and we will use the 25/64 bit or a 10mm bit to widen this hole that we're punching right now. And that will allow the riv nut to set in. Okay, so pull the track. Now, I'm going to go ahead and widen this out. And we'll deburr this with a little deburr, and then we'll go ahead and put a little bit of the paint on top of that to seal it. And I like to do that on all of these holes that we punch. I'm just using this step bit to deburr the front edge. The best tool is to use a deburring reasons. You're going to be tempted to go ahead and punch these other holes out. Don't do that. These set screws tend not to be on center, and 9 out of 10 times it'll work, but the times that it doesn't work is going to be a real pain in your ass. So the principle is the same. We're going to set the riv nuts. We're going to put the track back on, drill out our other 2 holes, pull it off, set the other 2 riv nuts. All right. So we'll take the track. And now, instead of using the set screws to put the tracks on, you'll be using the stainless steel screws. Okay? Set it back over the top where you were. We'll go ahead and get the Allen wrench for this guy.
So, Ted, yeah, do you guys supply a hex, an H4 hex power drill bit? Just how to use it with a clutch to do this by hand. You guys little bits?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should supply one of those.
I don't want to supply them to people. Maybe they don't need to see that one.
So we're making sure that we're tightening them all the way up, because this is, you don't want it slipping around. We're going to be drilling out the holes. As you can see, had we drilled this one out, if you can look straight on here, had we drilled that out, we would have been way off center, and then our bolt won't line up. So when we do this one, I'll be pulling this way with it. To center it out. If it barely, I'm gonna have to get a, if it barely touches or kisses the inside of this, that's fine. Just make sure you don't bore out a whole lot of material from the aluminum. Just deburring that very edge.
I think the wind.
And that's just to take.
Okay. That's the way to do it, Riv. Yeah, this gun makes a big difference in production.
Yeah.
We can
Get the rails out too.
we can go ahead and set the or
Okay. So when you get your MOAB bed, it'll be strapped on, strapped inside with the. Often there's, if you're getting the install kit, it's often the rails are in here as well. In order to install the kit, these are what we call the bed rails, and they're the horizontal rails that go across the van that the rest of the bed snaps into. So we're going to mount these on the vertical rails that we just installed, and then the MOAB bed will be able to click into it. And we're in this field in Washington right now at the Overland Northwest, and these guys will be able to sleep in their van tonight. So
Day one.
if you use your knife to cut through here, be careful that you're not scraping the aluminum. You don't want to scratch your new aluminum. There's two different sizes. There'll be a short one and a long one. The short one is for the passenger side, and the long one is for the driver's side. Okay? If you did buy the extra tracks, then you'll need to take these bolts out and mount the track right here and through bolt them again. And that will give you extra, the ability to strap gear down on top of the bed and use it as a storage shelf as well. These bolts will come with each of the MOAB beds. You're going to use, you'll take the nut off, and there's a flange that you're going to keep on the bolt, and you'll set this at the height that you want the bed. It can go anywhere on this track. We're going to keep it low since these people are just going to use it tonight, and we're going to be pulling everything off and installing the rest of the kit tomorrow.
Let's go right over the lowest rib nut.
So
Right over that one.
right over the, okay, and down,
Up.
up.
Yep.
Okay, so we're just going to set it there, and as long as we are both setting it in the same spot, which we just chose to put it over the bolt, and we're going to slap it on. So what you're going to want to be conscious of is that as you put it on, this flange doesn't knock out and become crooked. You want it slipped into that pocket. And a size 14 or 9/16 socket will work on this nut. Just give it a crank, and now this is on. We'll go ahead and do that to the other side here. You know, here's something just to point out. This is square, and so it'll only go in if you're not unable to get it on there. You're just going to twist it, and it'll finally pass through, and then put the flange over the top. When we set this on, again, be careful that that flange doesn't knock loose, and that it maintains. There we go. Its place within the hole here. And every time you put on a bolt, or when you're slipping a bolt in here or a nut over the top of the bolt, just make sure you're not cross-threading. So you can use the 14mm or a 9/16 socket, give it a little crank. You don't have to over tighten it. And now this rail system is ready to slip the bed in. So there's 3 panels, but only one of them needs to be in the very back. And you can tell by the extra kick out that it has here. When you get the bed, it might be a little stiff, so all of the felt and all of the it's all brand new, so you can kind of squeeze it up and down a few times to work it out a little bit. The more you use it, the more this will push up and become more free floating. The way you want to think about this is not that you're squeezing it together like an accordion, but that you're going to squish one side down, lift it up, set one side into place, and then you're just sort of letting the other side grow and lock itself in. The other panels can go in either way, but I like to take them and stagger them. So one of the smaller ends are facing this way and then zigzagging their way down. And that locks the bed in nice and solid. And now the bed is ready to be slept on.